the fundamental thing about being good as a virtue for leadership is the understanding that your strengths are the key to possibility, and leveraging strengths is a big, big way of opening that world of possibility. So back in Aristotelian times, the Greeks had this concept of arete, virtue, because really, when you talk about good, it's about virtue, meaning, authenticity, these three things, and those fabulous people out there. So what is virtue? The Greeks had a very classic explanation of this thing called virtue or goodness. They said, and for them it meant excellence in a very functional way. It was literally the answer to the question, what is the purpose of life for a person? That when he or she goes and achieves that purpose, you can say, hey, this person is leading a very engaged life. And the answer to that is that, hey, whenever Aristotle gave the answer, I'm just channeling it to you, and the entire area of positive psychology is based on Aristotelian Nicomachean ethics. So what Aristotle says is that if you are able to use your character strengths, your signature strengths, the strengths that are core to you, to be the best, absolutely terrific, perfect model of yourself, then hey, you're leading an engaged life. Interestingly, when you look at the creative industries, and a lot of research has been done in that area, you find that high performance teams within creative industries actually literally mirror this. In all high performance teams, you find that they're very, very productive, they're very committed, they're very collegial, and of course, they're very creative. And for all these, you end up using the character strengths that you possess, almost like traits. Then there's this thing about organizational change, Most of us look at organizations as problems to be solved. Yeah. We look for what has gone wrong and we go to fix the cracks. We look at individuals as problems to be solved too. When children come with their report card, you always look for mistakes, and tell them what they need to get remedial classes on. But in organizations, also, when you use strengths for organizational change, what do? You make images and metaphors and visions very, very positive and very energizing. It's a fallacy to say that people resist change. People love change so long as the image of the future they're given is energizing, and so long as they're able to take the best part of their present with them. So that is all about being good. And yet, why is it that we always focus on the bad? We are Velcro for pain, whether in your personal life or in your organizational life or in your communal life. You're Teflon to happiness and Velcro for pain. And why is bad stronger than good? Very simple. Because in evolution, negative emotions have a very privileged position. Because if you avoid the stick, you will probably end up living for the carrot the following day. So what happens in evolution is that negative emotion, and I've drawn that little arrow there, it's not important, but I'll just cover it very quickly anyway, because it's in the book. All right. So when you have a negative emotion, for example, lurking danger gives you fear. That feeling of fear gives you a sense of aversion. What that aversion does is sets a sensory alarm, which says, hey, danger, got to react to this. Your thinking gets narrow. You focus on everything that is connected to that danger. Awareness becomes focused on whatever it is that you feel is going to be your, is going to be troublesome to you. And then all your actions, all your priorities, all your attributions, everything becomes sharply focused to the negative. And finally, what happens? Your physiology goes into that famous fight flight response. So the thought action physiology repertoire ends up helping you fight that, whatever it is that the danger was. And that, of course, is very good in evolution because you live. So then what is the use of good news? If in evolution, the negative has a primal position because it helps you survive to the next day, what does good news do? And there's this lady called Alice Ison, and she's done this absolutely phenomenal experiment with general practitioners, medical doctors, that I think each of you can try. She's found, she's dead, poor lady, but, she did some fabulous work when she was around. But she found that if you give a bag of lollies to a doctor before you actually go for the consultation, the doctor does a much better job of diagnosis. So here's the key. That is the purpose of good news, okay? So what good news does is really two things. Number one, it's the accessibility hypothesis. So what happens is that when you get good news, when your emotions are nice and happy, when your mood's, very, very pleasant, then you look in your mind, you search in your memory for good stuff, all right? So that is part of the hypothesis. So number one, what happens when fear or danger gets to you, all your attention narrows. But when good stuff happens to you, awareness expands and it takes hold of a lot of other stuff, other good stuff. So your creativity improves and your decision making improves. So that's the first bit. Good news broadens you, broadens your mental capabilities. Good news also builds. How is that? You see a little child playing in the playground. I see my granddaughter playing in the playground, and she's constantly building physical resources, sociological resources, psychological resources, intellectual resources. Even as she's climbing that jungle gym, even as she's learning how to slide down that slide, even as she's negotiating her chance, her turn with another child who's waiting for the swing, she's building capability. Come on.